There have been a lot of new releases in the designer space, and I wanted to go over some men's fragrances today and share with you my honest opinions and unfiltered thoughts. I have smelled these fragrances a few times, so I'm somewhat familiar with them, and I do have thoughts. And I was kind of surprised at some of these fragrances. If this is your first time watching this channel, hello, my name is Anya. I absolutely love perfumes and colognes, and I talk about them here all the time, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, along with a ton of bonus content in between. If you're also interested in tracking your expenses and consuming responsibly, you should check out my fragrance expense tracker. I will link it down below. By the way, before we get into this, if you're a woman and you're watching this, there are fragrances here that also will work for women. And I'm going to specify which fragrances I think are more unisex and which fragrances I think are more traditionally masculine. So we're going to be talking about that. So let's first talk about Killian's Old Fashioned. Now, if you watched my new fragrance releases video a few weeks ago, and I do these fragrance news videos every single Monday. So every single Monday you can come back and you can check to see what's new. But a few weeks ago, they released or they announced their Old Fashioned perfume or Old Fashioned fragrance. And I was very, very interested in this because Old Fashioned is actually one of my favorite drinks to have. So I was very curious about this, but I will say this, some Killians I like, some of them I don't. This I really was impressed by. So we have top notes of wheat and Divana, a mid of Immortelle and Cedar, and then a base of Toulouse Balsam and Styrax. So I will open up my notes as well because when I was smelling these fragrances, and I smelled them over the course of a few trips to Sephora, so I don't have them here in front of me today, but I am quite familiar with these as I smelled them not once, but twice, and some even three times. But with many of these fragrances, in fact, I think most of them, I didn't even look at the scent pyramid beforehand. I mean, I did when I was like, for example, talking about them in a video, but I talk about so many scent pyramids that it's easy to forget. But right before I was smelling them, I didn't really know what I was getting into. I kind of knew the accords, but I didn't know the exact notes. So here I have my initial notes after smelling this two times. So a burst of alcohol that kind of like smells very photorealistic, kind of like is exactly like you'd expect an old fashioned to smell like when you first, or an old fashioned to be when you first sniff it or when you first smell it, right? So it was like a very intense burst of alcohol. And for me, it smelled like liquor. It literally smelled like liquor in the initial spritz. And initially I was kind of put off by that because I was like, yes, I do like old fashions, but this might be a little bit too masculine for me. It did soften, which was nice. But what was very interesting is the interpretation I got. I kind of got the idea that there were like some stone fruits, be it cherries or something else, or like plums, just like soaked in liquor. That's what I got. That's what I got in like the throughout the fragrance. I kind of got it more in the dry down, but as it dried down, it started to become more and more aromatic. This is actually really good. I did start off with a good one. This is a fantastic fragrance. I was very much impressed by it. I think it's interesting that they're coming out with a boozy fragrance, but it's way more, like incredibly more aromatic than I anticipated. And you do get a slight gourmand aspect. It literally smells like you're sipping an old fashioned and you're maybe having a bite off of the cherry. You know, like how some old fashions have like liquor soaked cherries that they give with you with the old fashioned to you. That's what I got. That's my interpretation. I really like this one a lot, and this is, I would say this would be going on my full bottle wish list. It's a really interesting fragrance, and I was quite fascinated by it. The next fragrance is Tom Ford's Vanilla Fatale, and to be honest, I have a bit of a either or thought process when it comes to Tom Ford because we all know that their fragrances are incredibly expensive and some may say not worth it. And I do think that is an opinion I also share for most of their fragrances. And that's why I've never really thought of like buying any one of their perfumes because not only um, are they super expensive, but they're also very renowned. So I feel like there's nothing more I can add to the discourse surrounding Tom Ford, you know? So whenever it comes to a new Tom Ford, I'm, however, always interested in trying it out. And this is Vanilla Fatale with notes of coriander and saffron at the top, a mid of coffee, barley, frangipani, and narcissus, and then a base of Madagascar vanilla, suede, tobacco, and mahogany. So let me pull up my notes again. So my notes were spicy, smooth, suede, almost cinnamon. When I smell this perfume, I literally, like, I thought there was like some kind of light spiciness to it. My nose picked up cinnamon. That's what was initially apparent to me, and it was like a very suede like fragrance. I like it better than vanilla sex. I think it's a better option, and I was smelling it and I really really did like it. But then I thought of how expensive it was, and I do think this is another one of those fragrances from Tom Ford. I truly don't think it's worth the price. It's a spicy vanilla suede like fragrance, and yes, it smells really good. I think this one actually leans more masculine, old fashioned in my mind. From Killian, it's completely unisex. Vanilla Fatale, on the other hand, is more masculine to my nose. I interpret it as more of a masculine fragrance. Is it a good fragrance? I think it is, but it's just not worth the price, and that is my honest opinion. If that's something that you're willing to spend on a vanilla fragrance like that, that is totally your prerogative, but I don't think I would spend that much money for a designer fragrance because I think it's close to $400 for the 1.7 ounce, which is craziness. It is insane how expensive Tom Ford can get, and that's why this is never gonna end up in my collection if I'm being honest. And I think that it's worth its smell because it's also so accessible, but it's not going to be a fragrance I would recommend personally. Next up is YSL's Myself Parfum. They came out with the Eau de Parfum a little bit ago. This time they have the Parfum available. So this has a white floral accord as well as vanilla, but we have top notes of black pepper, a mid of orange blossom, and then a base of bourbon, vanilla, amber, patchouli, and woody notes. This perfume is really interesting because I instantly like very much got the bourbon vanilla, especially in the dry down. It opened up like a little bit peppery, but not too much. So you know how a lot of traditionally masculine fragrances have like a sort of quality to them that makes them traditionally masculine, right? They have like a way of playing with like the notes of be it the black pepper or in this case like the amber or the vanilla that kind of like makes it like very kind of masculine. So it's almost like this fragrance is masculine, but the way they've done the vanilla and all like the gourmand aspects of it make it a little bit more feminine as well. So the way they've done the vanilla here specifically actually leans a little bit more feminine, but the other notes take it back, right? So you have essentially, in my mind, quite an androgynous perfume. This is, in my mind, a completely unisex fragrance. Is it my favorite in this video specifically? No, and I'm going to be doing a ranking at the end of this video to tell you my opinions on where I think these fragrances stand, but I think it's a really good one, and it might be my favorite one from YSL so far for men, and they have some really good options for men specifically. YSL is one of my favorite brands for masculine leaning colognes, and I think, yeah, this one is a good one as well. Is it something utterly groundbreaking? No, but it definitely does smell good. It smells like your typical masculine cologne, but it leans a little bit feminine as well. So again, it's like that perfect unisex balance. I really like this one. I think it's a good option to try. Next up, we have Eros Energy by Versace, and I actually was very curious about trying this particular fragrance because I've heard a lot of discourse about it online, especially coming from men. They really, really like it, and I have been a little bit hesitant to mention Versace for men on this channel, and I actually don't think I talk about their feminine fragrances that much either because nothing that I've tried from them is, in my mind, like really, really good. I've tried Crystal Noir and I actually did not love that fragrance. To me, it was just, I don't know, it was a nice fragrance I wore back in the day, but it's not a fragrance I wear anymore. And the Eros line, like it's kind of like I haven't liked the first two. Okay, the red one and the fresh, do not like them. This one though, I was very impressed by. Like, this is an interesting fragrance. It's a citrus bomb. That, to put it simply, it is a citrus bomb. You have to like your citrus accords to appreciate this fragrance. But we have top notes of Italian bergamot, blood orange, lime, and lemon, as well as grapefruit, a heart of pink peppercorn, black currant, white amber, and then a base of patchouli, musk, and oak moss. This fragrance, I will tell you, when I first sprayed it, I was taken aback because what I smelled, it smelled so citrusy. It was almost minty. It literally, I thought there was mint in the scent pyramid when I first smelled it. It was like this sharp mint. That's literally what I got. This fragrance, by the way, is also incredibly strong, which is not something that you see that often for citrus leaning perfumes, but this one is a strong fragrance, and I really do like it. You can definitely smell the lime as I was like looking at the scent pyramid and then cross-referencing. I think that initial like minty intensity was also the lime. I think that's what I interpreted it. I think I interpreted the lime as more minty because of the intensity there, but it's like an intense cocktail of notes, and the dry down is where you get like kind of like the deeper citruses, like the blood orange. Personally, let me look at the notes again. I don't really recall experiencing the other notes that much because the citrus here is so overpowering. This is definitely a citrus dominant perfume, and I think that the patchouli, musk, and oak moss do contribute to that longevity and to that power because this fragrance is an incredibly intense fragrance. This is not for the faint of heart. This is a perfume that you get if you really love citruses and you want to have like a beast mode performer. This is a perfume to get. Do I think it's unisex or masculine? I think it does lean unisex, but I pictured this most likely on a guy. But I think I would actually be interested in wearing this myself because it's so interesting. This is one of the more interesting designer citruses I've encountered. We have gone past, in my opinion, the light blue by Dolce & Gabbana. Like, that to me, that's no longer a relevant fragrance. There's so many other interesting citrus perfumes, and this is just one example. This is an incredibly impressive scent. So, now that we've talked about all these fragrances, I have 4 fragrances to share with you today. I'm going to go ahead and rank them for you. So starting off with the fragrance I would recommend the least, we have Tom Ford's Vanilla Fatale. This to me is not a fragrance that's worth the money. It's a fragrance that smells really nice. I liked it, but it wasn't groundbreaking for me. It didn't blow my socks off. It was a nice like vanilla suede fragrance, but I don't need another one like that. And I don't think it's doing anything quite special. I think it's a better, more palatable option than Vanilla Sex for a lot of people because Vanilla Sex is a very polarizing perfume. This one is less so, but I'd recommend it at least. It was not my favorite. Next up, I actually really enjoyed Myself Le Parfum by YSL. The reason it's ranked number 3 is because it's a good perfume, but I don't consider it to be the best option in this video. And I think that it's a good fragrance in that it has a lot of like really cozy notes, but it does it in a very like unisex way. So I think that anyone can really wear this fragrance. If you're looking for like a bourbony vanilla perfume that's very unisex, this is a good option to try. I think it's a very sexy fragrance. I really like it, but it wasn't my favorite in this video. My number 2 favorite is Versace Eros Energy. That one is so good. It's very impressive. This is a fragrance that I literally could not stop smelling when I first smelled it. It was intense and it takes you on a trip. It takes you from like this like bright and zesty, like I said, almost mint-like lime citrus to like a blood orange. And it's one of those fragrances, even though it's a citrus, because it's so strong, you could easily wear it all year round, in my personal opinion. It's also a beast performer. It lasts a really long time. That fragrance is potent. And then the first number 1 fragrance that I love the most, and this is actually a perfume that I would like to get for myself, is Killian's Old Fashioned. That perfume really takes you on like an experience, because you go in expecting to have a fragrance that's very boozy, and there are a lot of boozy fragrances out there to the point that it kind of gets a little bit redundant sometimes. But they've like really taken us on a trip with this fragrance. It starts off very alcoholic, but then it goes into an aromatic kind of set of notes, which is really, really pretty and quite intriguing. And I do love the stone fruit aspect in this fragrance as well. I think it's perfectly done. It's very interesting, very intriguing, and that's a fragrance I personally would love to have. And I do think it's a unisex fragrance. So that's pretty much it for this video. A little bit shorter today, but I hope that this was helpful to you. All these fragrances are available to smell at Sephora, and I do think that they are some really good options. Not every single fragrance here was my absolute favorites, but I hope that this kind of gave you some perspective into what I personally would recommend based on my tastes. Again, thank you so much for watching until the end. I hope you enjoyed this one and found it interesting, and I'll see you next time.